Rule number 1 is never lose money. Rule number 2 is never forget rule number 1. That's not a cute quote. That's a warning. When Warren Buffett says that, he's not talking about lunch money. He's talking about billions. He's talking about watching smart people blow themselves up because they couldn't sit still. And here's the part nobody says out loud. Your biggest problem isn't the market. It's you. It's that pressure you feel when everyone else is moving. It's that voice in your head that says, do something, move, don't miss it, don't look stupid. That voice has cost people fortunes. Urgency feels smart. It feels responsible. It feels like you're in control. But urgency is expensive. And Buffett figured that out early. At 11 years old, he bought his first stock. It dropped right after he bought it. And yeah, that stings, especially when you're a kid and every dollar matters. It finally bounced back a little. He sold, felt relieved, thought he was smart. Then it kept climbing. That lesson stuck. Impatience feels safe in the moment, but it costs you long-term. Fast forward. In the late 1990s, during the dot-com frenzy, tech stocks were doubling in months. Neighbors were getting rich overnight. CNBC was loud. Analysts were euphoric. Warren Buffett stayed out. For years, he was criticized publicly. Berkshire Hathaway underperformed. People said he was outdated. Some called him finished. He held cash anyway. Imagine that. Billions available, opportunities everywhere, and he chose to wait. Because Warren Buffett doesn't measure progress by activity. He measures it by edge. If he cannot explain in plain language how a business will make money 10 years from now, he does not move. You want to feel smart today. Warren Buffett wants to be correct over decades. That difference changes everything. He once described investing as if you had a punch card with only 20 slots for your entire life. 20 investments, that's it. Every time you invest, one punch is gone. You'd think differently, wouldn't you? You wouldn't chase noise. You wouldn't react to headlines at midnight. You would wait for something obvious. Warren Buffett built his fortune with fewer big decisions than most people make in a single year. That's not lack of ambition. That's discipline. And discipline feels like boredom. This is where you resist. You tell yourself, if I'm not acting, I'm falling behind. That belief is your internal enemy. Urgency. Warren Buffett refuses to negotiate with urgency. He reads annual reports for hours, quietly, alone in Omaha, no flashing screens, no adrenaline, just numbers, cash flow, debt ratios, management quality. This is not glamorous. It is repetitive, sometimes slow, sometimes frustrating. There were years when Berkshire's stock barely moved, years when critics questioned him, years when holding cash looked foolish. He endured that silence. Can you? When the market crashed in 2008, fear was everywhere. Banks collapsing, headlines predicting systemic failure, people selling anything they could. Warren Buffett stepped in with billions. Not because he was brave in the moment, because he had waited with cash. Patience gave him power. That's the part nobody talks about. Waiting is not passive. It is preparation. When you hold cash while others deploy recklessly, you feel exposed. You feel inactive. You doubt yourself. Warren Buffett has said the stock market transfers money from the impatient to the patient. That's not theory. That's pattern recognition after decades of watching people self-destruct. You think your biggest risk is missing out. Warren Buffett thinks his biggest risk is permanent loss. See the shift? He filters every move through opportunity cost. If he invests $1 here, what is that dollar not earning somewhere else? That question runs constantly in his mind. It's not dramatic. It's steady. When Berkshire accumulated over $100 billion in cash at certain points, commentators mocked the cash pile. But Warren Buffett wasn't hoarding. He was waiting for asymmetry. He knows markets swing between greed and fear. He does not chase greed. He prepares for fear. You struggle with stillness because stillness feels like uncertainty. Warren Buffett understands that uncertainty is the price of opportunity. He does not need constant confirmation. He needs margin of safety. And margin of safety requires saying no far more often than yes. Most investors make dozens of trades a year. Warren Buffett has held positions for 20, 30 years. Coca-Cola since the late 1980s. American Express through scandals and downturns. He buys as if the market could close for 10 years. Ask yourself that quietly. If the market closed tomorrow, would you feel calm about what you own? Or anxious? That answer tells you who you are right now. Warren Buffett thinks like an owner. Owners do not panic because of price swings. They evaluate earnings, competitive advantage, long-term demand. When you stop worshiping action, you begin evaluating substance. But this transition is uncomfortable. You will feel restless. You will check your accounts too often. You will compare yourself to louder people. Warren Buffett has lived in the same Omaha house he bought in 1958. Think about that. Not because he lacks money, because he does not need external proof. He separates wealth from display. That separation protects clarity, and clarity protects capital. You may be thinking, that's easy for him, he already won. But Warren Buffett started with small amounts, paper routes, early stock picks that dropped after he bought them, partnerships that required trust, reputation built slowly. At 11, his first stock went down after he purchased it. He sold too early when it recovered slightly and watched it climb much higher later. That lesson stayed. Patience pays. Impatience taxes you. Every time you jump early for relief, you pay. Financially, emotionally, in self-trust. The cost of constant action isn't just money. It's erosion. You begin doubting your own judgment because you never give decisions time to mature. Warren Buffett allows time to do heavy lifting. Compounding is not exciting month to month. But over 40, 50, 60 years, it becomes unstoppable. Here is the identity shift. Right now, you might see yourself as someone who reacts to news, to fear, to excitement. Warren Buffett sees himself as someone who allocates deliberately, calmly, with long memory. This is how someone who thinks like Warren Buffett responds when markets surge. He asks, what is the intrinsic value? When others rush, he asks, what am I missing? When cash sits idle, he asks, what optionality am I preserving? These are quiet questions, but they build empires. You don't need to copy his portfolio. You need to copy his restraint. Tomorrow morning, when you open your account and feel the urge to move something, pause. Ask what edge you truly have. If you cannot explain it clearly, in simple language, the way Warren Buffett insists he can explain a business to a 12-year-old, then wait. Waiting will feel like weakness. It is. It is strength under control. Most people cannot tolerate looking inactive. Warren Buffett can. That is why he wins. And here's the part that might sting. This way of thinking is not for everyone. If you crave excitement, if you need constant stimulation, if you measure progress by motion, you will resist this, because patience feels like deprivation. But Warren Buffett has proven, over more than half a century, that restraint compounds. Silence compounds. Selectivity compounds. He does not need 100 opportunities. He needs a few exceptional ones, and the courage to let the rest pass. So tonight, as you sit there, maybe tired, maybe uncertain about your financial future, understand this. You are not behind because you lack opportunity. You are behind because you overreact. That can change, not with a dramatic overhaul, but with small, ordinary decisions. Fewer trades, more reading, more reflection, more cash when nothing is obvious. This is how someone who thinks like Warren Buffett would respond. Without apology, without urgency, without noise. And as you learn to sit still, truly still, you'll discover something unexpected. Calm is power. In the next step, we'll confront what happens when the crowd turns against you, and how Warren Buffett stays rational when others lose control. You want to be right. Not rich, not free, not steady. Right. And that's the trap Warren Buffett learned to step around, over and over, while other smart people stayed stuck in it. Because being right feels good now. Winning over time feels quiet, for a long time, and it can feel like you're losing, even when you're building something that will outlive the noise. Warren Buffett doesn't chase the feeling. He chases the truth. And truth takes time. You can feel it in the way he talks, the way he writes, the way he moves when everyone else is sprinting. He doesn't need to win the room. He needs to win the decade. That's the mindset shift you've been avoiding. You've been trying to build a future with a brain that's addicted to immediate feedback. A brain that wants applause. A brain that wants proof tonight. Warren Buffett built Berkshire Hathaway with the opposite hunger. Not hunger for speed. Hunger for certainty, earned slowly and held calmly. Charlie Munger once said Buffett is rational to the core. That's not a compliment. That's a warning to your ego. Because rational means you don't get to be dramatic. It means you don't get to act out your fear in the market. It means you don't get to buy something just so you can tell someone you did. It means you're willing to look wrong while you're becoming right. Sit with that. There's a specific kind of pain that comes when you make a decision, and the world doesn't reward you fast. When you do the right thing and nothing happens. When you buy something solid and it goes sideways for months. When you hold cash and everyone else is celebrating gains. That pain is where most people break. They don't break because they lack intelligence. They break because they can't handle the silence. Warren Buffett can. He has trained himself to. You can see it in the moments people remember him for, not as a timeline, but as a pattern. In the late 1990s, the dot-com era, people were getting rich on businesses that didn't make money. The market was loud, frantic, almost drunk. Every day was another new era, another reason to feel behind. Warren Buffett didn't join. And for a while, he looked wrong. That's the part your ego hates. Your ego tells you, if I'm wrong in public, I'm unsafe. Warren Buffett's ego doesn't run the system. He doesn't need to be early. He needs to be correct. And he needs the price to be worth it. He's willing to let people call him old-fashioned while he waits for reality to catch up. That is a different identity. You're not just learning a strategy here. You're replacing a person. You stop being the person who needs to be validated. You become the person who can be misunderstood and still hold the line. Warren Buffett has held positions for decades. Not days. Decades. That means he's lived through boredom, doubt, public criticism, and stretches where the market did not clap for him. And he stayed. Not because he's numb. Because he understands a brutal truth. Price is not the same as value. You know that phrase. But Warren Buffett lives it. When the price drops, most people feel insulted. They feel challenged. They feel the need to prove something by selling, by buying more, by arguing online, by refreshing their app like it owes them an explanation. Warren Buffett doesn't argue with the market. He studies the business. He asks one question quietly, like a man checking the foundation of a house at night. Will this business be stronger in 10 years? Not will I look smart next week. 10 years. That time horizon is a shield. And it's also a weapon. Because if you can stretch your horizon, you can outlast people who are trapped in their feelings. You might be thinking, that sounds nice, but I don't have 10 years. Yes, you do. You just don't want to feel uncertain for 10 years. That's different. And Warren Buffett would call that out. He'd say you're confusing urgency with importance. He'd say you're trading your future for relief. Relief is expensive. Let's hear what this looks like in real life at an hour you recognize. It's late. Your phone is bright. Your chest feels tight. You check a position down 3% today, and suddenly you're not thinking about value. You're thinking about being wrong. You're thinking about what you'll tell yourself in the morning. You're thinking about how stupid you'll feel if it keeps dropping. And you want to do something. Anything. That urge, that itch, that need to act so you can stop feeling exposed. That's the enemy in this chapter. Ego. The need to be right. The need to feel in control right now. Warren Buffett doesn't negotiate with that need. He lets it pass. He doesn't drown it in action. He doesn't feed it with drama. He just returns to the facts. And yes, it can feel cold. But that calm is what makes him dangerous in a market full of emotion. There's a reason Buffett has spent decades reading. Not scrolling. Reading. Annual reports, financial statements, letters. It's been said he reads for hours a day, the kind of routine that looks boring from the outside, until you realize what it builds on the inside. A mind that doesn't need the crowd's permission. A mind that can hold a belief without immediate reward. A mind that can be patient without feeling powerless. That's what you're here for. Not stock tips. A mind. Warren Buffett doesn't need to win arguments. He needs to win results. And that means he's willing to change his mind. This is the part people miss. They think conviction means never adjusting. Warren Buffett's conviction is not stubbornness. It's clarity. If new facts show up, he respects them. If a business changes, he pays attention. But he does not let mood swings write the story. That is maturity. And you can feel how rare it is. Most people would rather protect their pride than protect their capital. They double down because they can't stand the idea of being wrong. They hold garbage because selling would mean admitting it. They chase the hottest thing because being left out feels like being invisible. Warren Buffett doesn't chase visibility. He chases probability. He can be wrong and still be okay. Because his identity isn't tied to a single decision. It's tied to a process. That's what you need to steal. A process that survives embarrassment. A process that survives boredom. A process that survives slow progress. Because slow progress is still progress if it compounds. And Warren Buffett is a compounding machine, not just financially, mentally. He compounds knowledge. He compounds discipline. He compounds judgment. You don't see the gains daily. Then years later, people call it genius. It wasn't genius. It was time applied correctly, with ego under control. Let me make it personal. There are parts of you that want to be seen as smart, even if you won't say it out loud. You want to make a move and have the world nod. You want that little spike of pride. Warren Buffett understands that urge, and he refuses to build a life on it. He's a man who still lives in Omaha, who bought a house in 1958 and never needed to turn his wealth into a costume. That's not a random detail. That's philosophy. If you can't resist the urge to perform, you can't resist the urge to gamble. And gambling is what people do when they need a fast emotional payoff. Warren Buffett doesn't need the payoff. He needs the outcome. So he chooses a time horizon that makes the ego irrelevant. That's how he thinks under pressure. Pressure comes in two forms. The pressure of a crisis, like 2008, when fear was everywhere and the world was watching every move. And the pressure of the slow season, when nothing is happening, but your mind keeps whispering that you're wasting time. Most people can handle one. They cannot handle both. Warren Buffett can handle both. In a crisis, he stays calm. In a slow season, he stays patient. Same skill, different costume. The skill is emotional control. The skill is not needing to be right today. Now, I'm going to say something you may not like. If you're constantly trying to prove you're right, you're not building wealth. You're building a fragile identity. And fragile identities make expensive decisions. They sell too early. They buy too late. They chase noise. They panic. They average down for pride, not for math. They talk themselves into stories. They refuse to look at numbers that scare them. Warren Buffett doesn't protect his feelings like that. He protects his future. So here's what it sounds like when you borrow his mental framework in ordinary moments. When you feel the urge to check prices again, you slow down. You ask, what changed in the business? Not what changed in my mood. This is how someone who thinks like Warren Buffett would respond. When someone mocks your long-term plan, you don't defend yourself. You don't debate. You let your timeline do the talking. This is how someone who thinks like Warren Buffett would respond. When a can't-miss trend shows up and everyone is certain, you get suspicious of the certainty. You ask, what would have to be true for this to work, and what if it is? This is how someone who thinks like Warren Buffett would respond. When you make a decision and it doesn't work fast, you don't rewrite your entire identity. You don't call yourself broken. You give it time while you keep watching the facts. This is how someone who thinks like Warren Buffett would respond. It's not dramatic. It's steady. And steady is what wins. But I'm not going to pretend this feels good at first. It can feel humiliating. Because you will have moments where you look wrong. And you won't get rescued quickly. You'll sit in uncertainty. You'll watch others celebrate. You'll wonder if you missed the boat. And the boat might even keep sailing for a while. That's the hardest part. Warren Buffett has lived through those stretches. Not once, many times. And he didn't power through with hype. He waited. He read. He thought. He held. He let time test the truth. Because time exposes what's real. And time punishes what's fake. That's why extending your horizon isn't just a financial tactic. It's a psychological tactic. A longer horizon gives you room to be human without being reckless. A longer horizon gives you room to make fewer decisions, but better ones. A longer horizon makes other people's opinions smaller. And if you're honest, other people's opinions have been running your money. Your pride, your fear of looking dumb, your need to feel ahead. Warren Buffett is not ahead because he's always right. He's ahead because he doesn't need to be right in public. He only needs to be right in reality. So tonight, I want you to feel the weight of this question. Are you trying to build wealth? Or are you trying to build a story where you're the smart one? Because the story will cost you. It will cost you in fees, in taxes, in churn, in stress, in sleep. It will cost you in that quiet erosion of trust when you keep changing your mind and calling it strategy. Warren Buffett's calm is built on self-trust. Not blind trust. Earned trust. The kind you build by doing what you said you would do when nobody is watching. That's the kind of trust you're about to build. Not by becoming louder, by becoming longer. Longer vision, longer patience, longer discipline. Warren Buffett once made it plain, in his own steady way, that the market can be a voting machine in the short run and a weighing machine in the long run. You don't need to memorize the quote. You need to live the idea. Short run is popularity. Long run is truth. You've been chasing popularity. The next version of you chases truth. Quietly, relentlessly, without apology. And here's the final turn. When you think in decades, you don't just invest differently. You live differently. You stop buying things to prove something. You stop reacting to people who don't pay your bills. You stop making decisions to ease a feeling. You start making decisions that honor your future self. Warren Buffett built a life where time works for him. That's the real flex. Time on your side. So the next time you feel that urge to be right, to clap back, to prove, to rush, let it hang in the air. Breathe. And remember Warren Buffett. Remember the man who could have chased every shiny thing and chose a handful of truths held for decades. That's not luck. That's identity. You're stepping into it. And soon you're going to need it. Because when the crowd gets loud, when the headlines scream, when everyone around you is moving as one, Warren Buffett doesn't follow. He watches. He waits. He stays rational while others lose themselves. And you're going to learn how to do the same. Warren Buffett has a sentence that sounds simple until you live through it. Be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful. Most people hear that and nod. Then the room catches fire, and they run with everyone else. Because when fear is real, it doesn't feel like a quote. It feels like your throat getting tight at 2:17 in the morning, your phone lighting up your face, your stomach dropping as you see red numbers you didn't plan for, and a voice in your head saying, "Get out, get out, get out." This is where Warren Buffett separates from the crowd. Not because he's fearless, because he's disciplined about where he listens. And he refuses to listen to panic. If you're honest, the crowd has been making your decisions for you. Not always in obvious ways. Sometimes it's a friend's confidence, a headline, a comment section, a hot take delivered like certainty. Sometimes it's the quiet shame of feeling late. Sometimes it's the need to be part of the winning team, even if the team is running straight into a wall. Warren Buffett built a life around ignoring that pull. And I want you to understand what that really means. It doesn't mean you become stubborn. It doesn't mean you become contrarian for attention. Warren Buffett isn't a rebel. He's a realist. He doesn't enjoy disagreeing. He just refuses to buy a story when he can buy reality. That's the entire game. And it starts in a place most people avoid. Silence. Picture it. Not a stage, not a trading floor. A quiet room, paper, numbers, a long stretch of time where nothing exciting happens. Warren Buffett has been known for reading for hours and hours, day after day, while other people chase urgency like it's oxygen. That habit isn't cute. It's protection. Because the market doesn't just take your money. It takes your mind first. It floods you with noise until you can't tell the difference between risk and embarrassment, between danger and discomfort, between a real problem and a temporary drop. The crowd hates silence. Silence is where you hear your own fear. Silence is where you realize you don't actually know what you own. Silence is where you can't hide behind everyone else is doing it. Warren Buffett lives there on purpose. Because silence is where you make independent decisions. And independence is expensive. It costs you social approval. It costs you the comfort of being part of the group. It costs you the feeling of safety that comes from moving with the herd. That is the internal enemy in this chapter. Approval, social proof, the need to feel protected by consensus. Warren Buffett refuses to negotiate with it. Now let's talk about what this looks like when it's not theoretical. When it's not a clean lesson. When it's ugly. 2008 wasn't a metaphor. It was a gut punch. Fear wasn't a mood, it was a force. Banks were failing. Liquidity was drying up. Jobs were evaporating. People were watching retirement accounts shrink in real time like a leak you couldn't stop. And it wasn't just numbers. It was shame. It was dread. It was that late-night thought, what if I can't fix this? In that environment, Warren Buffett didn't go on television to perform confidence. He wrote a piece in a major newspaper and put his name on a sentence that could have made him look reckless if it went wrong. He essentially said, "I'm buying." Not because it felt good, because fear was putting a discount tag on real businesses. He was stepping into the storm while the crowd sprinted away from it. That's not bravery for the sake of it. That's a framework. Warren Buffett does not ask, "How do I feel?" He asks, "What is this worth and what am I paying?" Those are different questions. And the crowd can't handle that difference when the temperature drops. They confuse falling prices with falling value. They confuse headlines with truth. They confuse fear with insight. Warren Buffett doesn't. He expects fear. He plans for it. He knows panic creates forced selling, and forced selling creates bargains. That's not romance. That's mechanics. But I don't want you to imagine Warren Buffett as some calm statue. He's human. He has pressure. When he moved in 2008, the entire world was watching. There's a specific kind of stress that comes when you make a public move in a crisis. Because if you're wrong, you don't just lose money. You lose credibility. You become a cautionary tale. And Warren Buffett understands reputation the way most people understand oxygen. You don't waste it. So when he put billions into deals like Goldman Sachs and General Electric in 2008, real numbers, not pocket change, 5 billion here, 3 billion there, he wasn't doing it to look bold. He was doing it because the terms made sense, because the fear in the market gave him leverage the crowd didn't have, because panic makes people accept deals they would never accept in calm times. That's the part you need to feel. Warren Buffett didn't just buy. He structured. He protected the downside. He demanded strong terms. When the world was begging for certainty, he became the one who could provide it and get paid for it. That's how Warren Buffett thinks under pressure. He doesn't chase safety. He prices it. He doesn't chase comfort. He uses discomfort as information. Now you might be sitting there thinking, okay, sure, but I'm not Warren Buffett. I don't have billions. I can't cut deals in a crisis. True, but that's not the lesson. The lesson is the mental posture. Because the crowd is not just a crowd in the stock market. The crowd is everywhere. It's in your spending. It's in your career moves. It's in your relationship with risk. It's in that moment you're about to do something, not because it's wise, but because you can't stand feeling left out. Warren Buffett isn't immune to emotion. He's trained to delay obedience. That's a skill. When something spikes, he doesn't instantly follow. When something crashes, he doesn't instantly flee. He slows down. He waits for facts. He returns to his circle of competence, what he understands. And if he doesn't understand it, he can tolerate not acting. Most people can't tolerate that. They would rather make a wrong move than sit in uncertainty. Warren Buffett can sit. That's why he survives what destroys other people. Let's bring this into a real scene you know. You're alone. It's late. The house is quiet. You can hear the hum of the fridge, a car outside, nothing else. You open your phone. You see the market down again, or you see someone online boasting about a win you didn't catch. And you feel it. That pull. That tightness. That voice saying, do something, fix it, prove you're not stupid. That voice is not wisdom. That voice is fear wearing a mask. Warren Buffett would recognize it instantly. He would call it what it is: a demand for emotional relief. And emotional relief is one of the most expensive things you can buy. Because you buy it with your future. You buy it by selling at the bottom to feel safe for an hour. You buy it by chasing a trend at the top to feel smart for a day. You buy it by copying the crowd because being alone feels dangerous. Warren Buffett does not pay that price. He would rather feel uncomfortable now than regretful later. That's the trade. And you can make it too. Not with a heroic speech. With a small pause. A breath. A question. Here's one question Warren Buffett lives inside of. What do I know that the crowd is ignoring? Sometimes the answer is nothing. And when the answer is nothing, he waits. That's another form of strength. Waiting without apology. You don't do that yet. You apologize to yourself for being patient. You call it missing out. Warren Buffett calls it discipline. This is how someone who thinks like Warren Buffett would respond when everyone is screaming. He would turn the volume down. He would read. He would look at balance sheets, cash flow, debt, pricing power. He would ask, if the market shut down for years, would this business still produce real value? Not, will people like my decision tomorrow? Warren Buffett is not trying to impress tomorrow. He's trying to win the long run. And let's be clear. Ignoring the crowd doesn't mean you never feel anxiety. It means you don't let anxiety vote. You let it speak, then you make it sit down. That is emotional regulation. Not suppression. Regulation. It's the difference between being a passenger and being a driver. When volatility hits, most people become passengers in their own lives. Dragged by emotion, dragged by news, dragged by other people's certainty. Warren Buffett stays in the driver's seat. Quiet hands on the wheel. Eyes forward. He knows the road gets rough sometimes. He just refuses to crash because the passenger is yelling. But there's another reality you need to hear. Warren Buffett didn't get this calm by being naturally calm. He earned it by repetition, by being wrong sometimes, by feeling the sting, by learning the difference between temporary pain and permanent loss. When you're new to pressure, everything feels like an emergency. When you've been through multiple cycles, booms, busts, bubbles, crashes, you develop something the crowd can't fake. Perspective. Warren Buffett has seen manias. He's seen panics. He's seen people swear this time is different. And he's watched different turn into the same with new packaging. That experience becomes a filter. So when fear shows up, he doesn't treat it like prophecy. He treats it like weather. Bad weather doesn't mean the world ended. It means you adjust. You don't throw your house away because it's raining. You don't sell a good business because the crowd is wet and loud. Warren Buffett waits for the storm to reveal what's strong. That's how he thinks under pressure. Now let me challenge you quietly. How much of your financial life has been built on other people's moods? How many decisions have you made because you didn't want to look foolish? How many times have you sold, not because the value disappeared, but because you couldn't tolerate feeling wrong? That's not investing. That's emotional bargaining. And it keeps you small. Not because you're incapable, but because you're tethered to the crowd. Warren Buffett is not tethered. He's anchored. Anchored to fundamentals. Anchored to time. Anchored to what he can understand. That anchoring is what you're building. So what does this become in your real life when nobody is watching? It becomes a new kind of pause, a new kind of patience, a new kind of self-respect. When you feel pulled into noise, you step back. You reduce inputs. Less news, less commentary, less adrenaline. You increase your own research. Not obsessively. Steadily. You make space for the kind of thinking Warren Buffett would recognize. You begin to ask, what is this worth to me over 10 years? Not what do strangers think today. This is how someone who thinks like Warren Buffett would respond. When you feel the urge to follow, you ask one grounded question. Am I buying because I understand, or because I'm scared to be left out? This is how someone who thinks like Warren Buffett would respond. When you feel panic in a downturn, you don't pretend to be fearless. You return to your rules. You check the business, you check the facts, you check your margin of safety. You don't check your pride. This is how someone who thinks like Warren Buffett would respond. And when the answer is unclear, you do the hardest thing. You wait. Silence. No performance. No apology. But here's the cost of not learning this. It isn't just money. It's years of your life spent reacting. It's the slow decay of self-trust. Because every time you let the crowd move you, you teach yourself a dark lesson. I can't be trusted when it matters. That lesson follows you. Into relationships. Into work. Into every decision where pressure shows up. Warren Buffett built his wealth, yes. But more than that. He built an internal steadiness. A mind that doesn't need to outsource certainty. That's the real asset. And it compounds. One more reality marker, because I want this to feel grounded in the world you actually live in. In 2008, Warren Buffett didn't buy because he had a crystal ball. He bought because prices were down, fear was up, and he could demand terms that protected him. That's the pattern. Fear makes people sloppy. Fear makes people rush. Fear makes people sell good things at bad prices. Warren Buffett doesn't celebrate fear. He uses it. Calmly. And he doesn't do it alone. He does it with a framework that has been tested across decades. That's what you're borrowing. Not his fame. Not his money. His framework. Now listen. Ignoring the crowd will make you lonely sometimes. It will. You won't have as many exciting stories. You won't feel that rush of "I called it." You might even look boring. Warren Buffett looks boring to people who worship drama. And he's fine with that. Because boring, when it's grounded, is powerful. Boring keeps you alive in a world that tries to shake you off your plan. Boring protects you from expensive mistakes. Boring lets time do the lifting. This isn't for everyone. If you need constant action, you'll rebel against this. If you need approval, You'll abandon it the moment people question you. But if you want freedom, real freedom, then you need Warren Buffett's quiet strength. Not as a story, as a way of being. So tonight, with your headphones on in the dark, with your own thoughts pressing in, make one decision. Not a market decision, a personal one. You are done outsourcing your mind. You are done letting headlines set your heartbeat. You are done chasing safety in crowds that don't know where they're going. Warren Buffett built his edge by trusting silence over noise. Now you do the same. You slow down. You return to facts. You widen the time horizon. You act only when the odds are in your favor, and you can explain why. And when you call, you wait, because waiting is not weakness. Waiting is sovereignty. Warren Buffett knows that. And now you're starting to know it too. In the next step, you're going to need this calm even more, because we're moving into the moment when panic hits, when everyone else loses their head, and you learn how Warren Buffett stays rational when the world stops making sense. You don't need another stock. You need a different identity. Because right now, if you're honest, you're treating the market like a slot machine with better graphics. You watch a number move. You feel something. You hit buy or sell. And you call it investing. Warren Buffett would call it something else. He'd call it renting excitement. And it's expensive. But Warren Buffett doesn't buy tickers. He buys businesses. That sounds like a phrase people toss around, but he lives it in a way that changes your pulse when the screen turns red. When Warren Buffett looks at a stock, he's not thinking, will this go up this week? He's thinking, if I own this whole company, would I be proud of how it earns money while I sleep? That question is heavier. That question slows you down. And slowing down is exactly what your impulse hates. Your impulse wants speed. Your impulse wants a win you can point to. Your impulse wants to feel smart tonight. Warren Buffett doesn't feed that part of himself. He starves it. Because Warren Buffett knows something most people learn too late. The market doesn't reward your excitement. It rewards your understanding. Let's make it real. It's late. You're alone. The glow of your phone is the only light in the room, and you're staring at a chart like it's going to confess something. Up 5%. Down 7%. Up again. And you're tempted because movement feels like opportunity. Warren Buffett would look at that and feel nothing. Not because he's numb. Because he's not watching the same thing you're watching. You're watching a scoreboard. Warren Buffett is watching the game film. He's asking, how does this business actually make money? Not how does it make me feel? That's the ownership shift. And if you don't make it, you'll stay trapped in the same cycle. Chase. Regret. Repeat. Warren Buffett once built an entire worldview around a simple thought experiment. What if the market closed and you couldn't sell for 10 years? No quick exit. No panic button. No flipping. Just you and what you chose to own. That question isn't meant to scare you. It's meant to expose you. Because if the thought of 10 years makes you anxious, it means you never believed in the business. You believed in the crowd. You believed in the trend. You believed in the hope that someone else would pay more later. That's not ownership. That's a lottery ticket. And Warren Buffett doesn't do lottery tickets. He does cash flow. He does durability. He does businesses that can take a punch and still earn. But there's a reason Warren Buffett loves simple businesses. Not because he lacks imagination. Because he respects reality. In the early 1970s, Warren Buffett bought candies for about $25 million. Candy. Boxes of chocolate. Not a rocket ship, not a disruptor, not a headline magnet. But it had something Warren Buffett could feel in his bones. People loved it. They came back. They paid a little more each year and kept coming. Pricing power. Trust. A product people didn't need to be talked into. Warren Buffett didn't buy C's because it was exciting. He bought it because the business would keep producing cash, quietly, year after year, while the world chased whatever was new. That's what an owner sees. An owner sees the engine, not the paint job. But now listen closely. This is where your resistance will show up. You'll say, okay, but I don't have time to analyze businesses like Warren Buffett. You'll say, I'm not a professional. You'll say, I just want a simple way. And I get it. But Warren Buffett would hear that and ask you one calm question. How much time are you spending watching prices instead of learning what you own? Because you do have time. You're just spending it on the wrong inputs. The crowd trained you to watch noise. Warren Buffett trained himself to read substance. And that training shows up when pressure hits. Think about Coca-Cola. Warren Buffett started buying a massive stake in Coca-Cola around 1988, putting well over $1 billion into it. $1 billion. Not a maybe. Not a trial. A conviction. And the reason wasn't magic. It was ownership logic. A brand with global reach. A product that sells in good times and bad. A business that could raise prices over time. A business whose cash flows could compound. Warren Buffett didn't buy Coca-Cola because it was trendy. He bought it because he could imagine it still earning, still selling, still paying decades later. That's how Warren Buffett thinks under pressure. He asks, will this still be here, still strong, when the mood swings pass? Well, you've been trained to think like a trader. Traders ask, what's the catalyst? Owners ask, what's the durability? Traders ask, what will people think? Owners ask, what will the business earn? Traders watch minutes. Owners watch years. And here's the uncomfortable truth. If you keep thinking like a trader, your emotions will stay attached to price. Every dip will feel personal. Every headline will feel like a threat. Every rally will make you greedy. And you'll call it market psychology, when it's really just you being pulled around by a number. Warren Buffett cut that cord. He doesn't let price define reality. He lets reality define price. That's the shift you're making. But this chapter isn't really about stocks. It's about your relationship with control. Because speculation is what you do when you don't want to face uncertainty. You buy the lottery ticket because it gives you a story. A fast story. A story where you don't have to do the slow work of understanding. But Warren Buffett's entire advantage is that he is willing to do the slow work. He reads. He thinks. He waits. He chooses. And then he holds through boredom, through doubt, through people questioning him. That holding is not passive. It's strength. Because strength is staying with the right thing long enough for it to pay you. Let's talk about what happens inside you when you start acting like an owner. At first, it's awkward. Because you're used to dopamine. You're used to something happening. And ownership feels quiet. You might buy a good company, and nothing happens for months. No fireworks. No applause. Just slow progress. That's where most people bail. They can't stand the silence. They interpret silence as failure. Warren Buffett doesn't. Warren Buffett understands that silence is often the price of compounding. And compounding isn't loud. It's patient. It's stubborn. It's boring until it is. But here's the internal enemy in this chapter. It's not ignorance. It's not lack of money. It's impatience. And impatience usually wears a smarter mask. The need for excitement. The need for certainty. The need for a quick win so you can breathe again. Warren Buffett refuses to negotiate with that need. He doesn't chase the feeling of being right. He chases the reality of owning something good. And that's why he can sit through volatility without losing himself. Because an owner doesn't ask, why is the stock down today? An owner asks, did the business break or did the crowd panic? Those are different worlds. So let's bring it down to the moment. Not a grand moment. A normal moment. You're about to buy something, or sell, or rotate, and you feel that urge, that itch to act. This is where you borrow Warren Buffett's mind. Not his money, his mind. You pause. You ask, if I owned the whole business, what would I do? Would you fire the CEO because the stock dipped? No. Would you shut down the factory because Twitter got loud? No. Would you sell your grocery store because the parking lot was slow on Tuesday? No. So why are you treating your investments like they're disposable? That's not ownership. That's insecurity. Warren Buffett doesn't run from insecurity by acting. He runs from insecurity by understanding. And understanding has a feel to it. It's calm. It's specific. It's not vague optimism. It's grounded. It sounds like this. I know how this company makes money. I know what could hurt it. I know what it's worth roughly. I know why I'm holding. That's the language of an owner. Warren Buffett lives in that language. And when you don't have that language, you default to the crowd. You default to vibes. You default to the dopamine of motion. And you end up with a portfolio that looks like a junk drawer. Random stuff. No thesis. No backbone. Just noise. Warren Buffett would never accept that. Not because he's perfect. Because he respects his attention. He protects it. He focuses it. This is how someone who thinks like Warren Buffett would respond when a hot stock is everywhere. He wouldn't rush. He wouldn't argue. He wouldn't mock it. He'd ask quietly, do I understand the business or do I understand the excitement? And if it's excitement, he'd pass. No drama. This is how someone who thinks like Warren Buffett would respond when a good business drops 20% in a rough market. He wouldn't panic sell for relief. He'd check the engine. Revenue. Margins. Debt. Competitive edge. He'd ask, did value change or did mood change? And he'd act accordingly. This is how someone who thinks like Warren Buffett would respond when nothing looks great. He'd wait. And waiting wouldn't feel like missing out. It would feel like discipline. Because Warren Buffett knows the best opportunities don't come every week. They come in clusters, during fear, during confusion, when the crowd is least able to think straight. And owners with cash and clarity get to choose. Now I want you to notice what's happening to you as you listen. If you're feeling a little exposed, good. That's the old identity realizing it can't survive in this new standard. The old identity wanted to feel clever. The new identity wants to be correct. The old identity wanted quick results. The new identity wants durable wealth. The old identity wanted a story. The new identity wants an engine. That's Warren Buffett. Over and over. Engine over story. Durability over drama. Reality over noise. And you don't have to become a finance wizard to do this. Warren Buffett's genius is how simple he keeps it. He's famously avoided businesses he can't understand. He sticks to what he can explain. And that's a belief you can borrow right now. If you can't explain how the money comes in, if you can't explain what keeps customers coming back, if you can't explain what could destroy it, then you don't own it. You're renting hope. And hope has no balance sheet. So tonight, here's the shift. You stop calling yourself an investor because you bought something. You become an owner because you can justify it, calmly in the dark with no audience. You hold fewer things, but you hold them with conviction. Not stubborn conviction. Informed conviction. The kind Warren Buffett trusts. And you become harder to shake. Because the crowd can only move you when you don't know what you have. Warren Buffett knows what he has. That's why he can sit through storms. One last question and let it land. If the market closed tomorrow for 10 years, would you feel proud of what you own? Or would you feel trapped? Your answer isn't shame. It's a compass. Warren Buffett would respect the truth of your answer and then adjust. Quietly, step by step. Less noise, more substance, less trading, more ownership. And in the next chapter, we're going to tighten the screws. Because ownership without protection is still fragile. Warren Buffett doesn't just buy good businesses. He protects the downside relentlessly. And once you understand that, you stop playing to win fast. You start playing to survive and compound for a very long time. Warren Buffett isn't trying to be a hero. He's trying to survive. That's the part most people don't understand, because survival doesn't look impressive on a chart. It looks like saying no. It looks like sitting out the party. It looks like watching everyone else celebrate a thing you could have bought, and feeling that hot sting in your chest, and still refusing. Warren Buffett built his entire life around one brutal priority. Don't blow up. Because one catastrophic loss doesn't just set you back. It breaks your timeline. It steals years. It steals sleep. It steals your belief that you can trust yourself again. Warren Buffett protects the downside like a man who's seen what panic can do to a family, a business, a reputation in a single season. And if you're listening late at night, alone, with that quiet fear in the back of your mind about money, this is the chapter you needed. People like to repeat Warren Buffett's rules because they sound clean. Rule number 1, never lose money. Rule number 2, never forget rule number 1. But the deeper truth is what he's really saying. He's saying you don't get infinite chances. You don't get to restart your life every time you get emotional. You don't get to bet your future on a story you don't understand. Warren Buffett doesn't just avoid loss. He avoids permanent loss. That's a different kind of thinking. Because prices move. Markets swing. But permanent loss, that's what happens when you buy what you can't explain. That's what happens when you chase what you don't understand. That's what happens when you confuse smart with fast. Warren Buffett refuses that confusion. Let's name the internal enemy. It's not greed. Greed is loud, yes, but it's obvious. The real enemy is something quieter. FOMO. The fear of missing out. The fear that everyone else is getting ahead and you're falling behind. FOMO makes you betray your standards. FOMO makes you accept risks you didn't even price. FOMO makes you buy things because they're popular, not because they're solid. Warren Buffett doesn't negotiate with FOMO. He doesn't manage it. He shuts the door on it. Because he understands something that doesn't feel natural until you've been burned. Missing out is painful, but blowing up is fatal. Now I want you to feel this, Not as theory, as a scene. You're scrolling. You see a stock, a coin, a next big thing. It's up 40% this month. People are posting screenshots. They're talking like it's guaranteed. And your body reacts before your mind does. Your heart speeds up. Your thoughts start racing. You can almost taste the regret of not acting. That is exactly the moment Warren Buffett trained for. Not the moment of victory, the moment of temptation. Because Warren Buffett knows the market doesn't steal from you with force. It steals from you with seduction. And the seduction is always the same. Everyone else is doing it. Warren Buffett hears that and thinks, good, that means the price is probably wrong. Or even more often he thinks, it's not in my circle, pass. That phrase, circle of competence, sounds mild. But it's one of the most aggressive survival tools in finance. Warren Buffett has spent decades saying, in his own steady way, I don't have to understand everything. He only has to understand what he buys. That's humility. And humility is protective. Ego is expensive. Warren Buffett avoided entire waves of innovation that made people rich fast and ruined people faster. He didn't chase the early dot-com frenzy the way the crowd did. He let other people call him out of touch. He let them laugh. He let them perform their certainty. And he held his ground. Not because he hated technology, because he refused to risk permanent loss on things he couldn't value with confidence. That's not fear. That's discipline. That's Warren Buffett thinking under pressure. He's not asking, how high can this go? He's asking, how wrong can I be? That question changes your posture. It makes you stop leaning forward like a gambler. It makes you sit back like an owner. Well, here's another reality marker that matters. Warren Buffett has written for decades about margin of safety. He didn't invent the idea, but he built his empire around it. Margin of safety is what you demand when you accept a simple truth. You are not as smart as you feel on your best day. You will miss something. You will misjudge something. Something will go wrong. So you build in room for error. You pay a price that gives you space. You choose businesses that can take hits. You avoid leverage that can wipe you out. You protect your downside because time is your most valuable asset. And Warren Buffett doesn't waste time recovering from stupidity. He'd rather feel bored than be broken. Now notice what your mind is doing. It wants a list. It wants a shortcut. It wants a safe play. And Warren Buffett would smile at that, not mockingly, just gently, like a man who knows how human you are. Because the truth is, there is no life without risk. Warren Buffett takes risk. He just takes understood risk. He takes risk he can explain in plain English. He takes risk where the downside is contained and the upside is real. That's the difference. And if you want to think like Warren Buffett, you don't become risk-free. You become risk-literate. Let's bring it back to your ordinary moments. Because survival isn't decided in the big moments. It's decided in the small ones. It's decided when you're tired and emotional and you want the relief of action. It's decided when you feel behind and you want to catch up. It's decided when someone confident tells you, trust me. Warren Buffett doesn't trust confidence. He trusts clarity. So in your real life, the first survival move is not a trade. It's a pause. A hard pause. A breath. Then a question that Warren Buffett would respect. Can I explain how this makes money? Not can this go up. Explain it. Out loud. Like you're talking to someone you love and you don't want to mislead them. If you can't, you don't buy. This is how someone who thinks like Warren Buffett would respond. He would refuse what he doesn't understand, even if it makes him look slow. Because he's not racing. He's compounding. And here, where it gets uncomfortable, you may have to admit you've been pretending. Pretending you understood something because you wanted it to work. Pretending you were investing when you were really hopping. Pretending you were calm when you were really numb. Warren Buffett's strength is that he doesn't pretend. He does the unsexy work. He reads what others won't. He asks what others won't. He walks away when others can't. That walking away is a skill. And it's emotional. It's not just logic. Because walking away feels like loss. It feels like letting go of a fantasy. It feels like accepting you won't be the person who got rich overnight. Warren Buffett never wanted that story. He wanted durability. He wanted freedom built on math and patience. So when he says no, he's not deprived. He's protected. There's a line that comes up again and again in how Warren Buffett lives. He doesn't swing at every pitch. He waits for the fat pitch. That's not laziness. That's precision. And that's how you protect the downside. You reduce the number of ways you can be wrong. You don't need 10 different bets. You need a few that are inside your circle, priced with a margin of safety, and held with clear reasons. That clarity is your armor. Without it, you'll fold under pressure. Because under pressure, you will return to your true level of preparation. Warren Buffett prepares. Quietly, relentlessly. Now let's talk about the hidden cost. Because the cost of not protecting the downside isn't just financial. It's psychological. When you take a big hit, you lose something. You lose trust in your judgment. And when you don't trust your judgment, you start outsourcing your decisions. You follow influencers. You chase tips. You copy friends. You become a passenger. That's how people stay broke, even when they make money sometimes. Because their identity becomes reactive. Warren Buffett's identity is stable. He's a man with rules. Not rigid rules, but clear ones. Rules that keep him alive in a world designed to seduce him. The market wants you to feel like you must act. Warren Buffett refuses. He decides when he acts. That control is the asset. Here's a practical picture of margin of safety that isn't a textbook. It's you late at night looking at a purchase. And you ask, if I'm wrong, what happens? If the answer is, I'll be annoyed, that's one thing. If the answer is, this could wipe me out, that's another. Warren Buffett lives in that distinction. He avoids wipeout scenarios. He avoids the kind of leverage that turns a normal mistake into a life event. He avoids businesses where one surprise can destroy the whole story. Because Warren Buffett understands, survival is the prerequisite for compounding. No survival, no compounding, no freedom, just recovery, over and over. Now, I want you to feel the emotional arc here. At first, you feel FOMO. You feel small. You feel like restraint is weakness. Then you start seeing it. Restraint is power. Restraint is choosing not to be manipulated. Restraint is building a life that doesn't depend on luck. Warren Buffett's restraint is why he can sleep. And sleep matters. Because decisions made without sleep are expensive. The crowd doesn't talk about that. But Warren Buffett knows it. He built a lifestyle that supports good judgment. Simple, steady, less noise, less drama, more clarity. That's survival. So let's turn this into the kind of action that fits Warren Buffett's world. No hype, no dramatic vows, just a few small, repeatable moves made when you're not motivated, made when nobody is watching. This is how someone who thinks like Warren Buffett would respond tomorrow. He would write down in plain words what he owns and why. If he can't write it, he doesn't understand it. He would identify his circle. Not what sounds cool, what he truly understands. He would reduce the urge to expand into things he can't explain just to feel sophisticated. Warren Buffett doesn't buy sophistication. He buys cash flow. He would decide ahead of time what too expensive looks like. Because when the crowd is greedy, your standards are the only thing standing between you and regret. He would make peace with missing out, because missing out is a small price compared to permanent loss. That's Warren Buffett's survival code. And it's yours now if you're willing to pay the price. The price is boredom. The price is being left out. The price is letting other people have stories while you build a foundation. Most people won't pay it. They'll choose excitement. Then they'll choose recovery. Again, I want to end this with something that lands clean. Warren Buffett doesn't win by being right all the time. He wins by avoiding the mistakes that destroy people. He wins by refusing to buy what he can't understand. He wins by demanding a margin of safety. He wins by saying no far more than yes. That's not just investing. That's character. That's identity. So tonight, decide who you're going to be. The person who needs to feel included, or the person who needs to survive. Warren Buffett chose survival, and survival over time becomes freedom. In the next chapter, you're going to learn why that freedom often looks like boredom, and why Warren Buffett lets boredom make him rich. Warren Buffett didn't get rich by being exciting. He got rich by being consistent. And if that sentence irritates you a little, good. Because the part of you that craves excitement is the part that keeps you broke. Not broke in your bank account only. Broke in your attention. Broke in your patience. Broke in your ability to stay with anything long enough for it to grow. Warren Buffett built a fortune by doing the same simple things for a very long time, while the world begged him to get distracted. That's the obsession. Compounding. Not as a math word, as a way of living. Here's a hard truth. Most people don't fail because they choose the wrong thing. They fail because they can't stay with the right thing. They quit early. They chase novelty. They trade peace for stimulation. Warren Buffett doesn't. Warren Buffett has held positions for decades, not because he's stubborn, but because he respects what time can do to a good decision. Time is his quiet partner, and you've been treating time like an enemy, like something you have to beat. Warren Buffett would tell you, you don't beat time. You enlist it. Think about what people say about him. They call him boring. They call Omaha boring. They call his habits boring. Same house, bought in 1958. Same routines. Same calm voice. But that boring is the whole point. Because boring is stable. And stability is what allows compounding to do its work. The internal enemy in this chapter is adrenaline. That need for a hit. That need to feel like something is happening. Warren Buffett refuses to negotiate with that need. He doesn't need a rush. He needs a result. Now let's make this real. It's late again. You're on your phone. You're staring at some chart that looks like a heart monitor. Up, down, and your mind is doing what it always does. It's trying to turn money into entertainment. That's what the market becomes for most people. A show, a stream of tiny emotions. And you keep tuning in because boredom feels like emptiness. Warren Buffett doesn't turn investing into entertainment. He turns it into ownership. He turns it into a quiet machine that runs while he lives his life. That's the difference. And that difference is freedom. There's a line people attribute to Einstein, whether he said it or not, that compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. Warren Buffett didn't need the quote to believe it. He proved it. He proved it the slow way. He didn't prove it with one lucky year. He proved it with 60-plus years of compounding, where the big numbers came late. That's the part you have to understand. The early years don't look impressive. They look like nothing is happening. They look like you're behind. They look like you made the wrong choice because you don't get rewarded quickly. And that's exactly why most people never reach the part where compounding gets violent. They quit at the boring part. Warren Buffett stayed. Let me give you a reality marker that should land. A huge share of Warren Buffett's net worth came after age 50. And even more came after 60. That's not because he suddenly got smarter. It's because compounding is patient until it is. It moves like a tide for years, and then one day it feels like a wave. But you don't get the wave if you abandon the tide. Warren Buffett understands this so deeply that he built his entire temperament around it. He doesn't need constant wins. He needs continuity. And continuity is hard. Not because it's complex. Because it's quiet. Because it's repetitive. Because nobody claps for you when you do the same right thing again. Nobody praises you for reinvesting. Nobody throws you a parade for holding. Nobody congratulates you for not doing something stupid. Warren Buffett has spent a lifetime collecting rewards the crowd can't see, while the crowd collects applause that doesn't last. So here's the uncomfortable question. Are you chasing applause or are you chasing outcomes? Warren Buffett chose outcomes. Again and again. This is why boredom is so powerful. Boredom is where the amateurs leave. Boredom is where the impatient leak money. Boredom is where you find out if you're serious or just emotional. Warren Buffett has said the stock market is a device for transferring money from the impatient to the patient. That sounds polite. It's not. It's brutal. It means every time you chase the rush, you are paying someone else. Every time you sell because you can't stand waiting, someone steadier is buying from you. Warren Buffett built a life on the other side of that trade. Now you might tell yourself, I can't wait decades, I need progress now. And I hear you. But Warren Buffett would press on that. He'd say calmly, you don't need progress now, you need proof now. You want reassurance. You want your decision to praise you back. That's a human craving. But it's expensive. Because the market rarely rewards the right behavior right away. Often it tests you first. It makes you sit in uncertainty. It makes you feel foolish. It makes you wonder if you're missing out. That testing period is the cost of entry. Warren Buffett pays it without drama. He expects it. Think about how he operates. He reads for hours. He writes letters that are clear, plain-spoken, almost stubbornly simple. He avoids what he can't understand. He holds what he does. That's not just investing style. That's emotional architecture. Warren Buffett built a life that supports patience. And if your life doesn't support patience, you'll keep breaking your own plans. Because the problem isn't your intelligence. It's your environment. It's your inputs. It's your habits at 11:30 p.m. when you should be sleeping, but you're checking prices. Warren Buffett isn't doing that. He's sleeping or reading something that compounds his understanding. That's why he's calm. Not because he's special, because he set up his world to reward calm. Now let's talk about reinvesting, because this is where compounding becomes real, not poetic. Warren Buffett doesn't just earn. He redeploys. He takes what a business produces and puts it back into machines that produce more. Dividends, retained earnings, cash flow that becomes ownership somewhere else. It's not one win. It's a system of wins feeding each other. And you can do a version of that in your own life. Not with billions, with consistency, with small repeated choices, with the willingness to do the boring thing again. Here, what boredom looks like in practice. It looks like buying a solid thing and then not touching it. It looks like ignoring the urge to improve your portfolio every week. It looks like letting a good business work. It looks like reading one annual report instead of watching 10 opinions. It looks like adding regularly, even when it doesn't feel heroic. It looks like saying, I'm going to be here in 5 years, even if you don't feel confident today. Warren Buffett doesn't wait to feel confident. He builds confidence by behaving consistently. That's a different order of operations. You've been waiting to feel ready. Warren Buffett becomes ready by repeating the right behaviors until they become identity. And identity is the real compounding. Because once you become the kind of person who can endure boredom, you become dangerous. Not loud dangerous, quiet dangerous. Because the world is full of people who cannot endure themselves. They need stimulation to distract from doubt. They need noise to avoid facing the fact that they don't have a plan. Warren Buffett can sit in silence and hold a plan. That ability alone is worth millions over a lifetime. Let's acknowledge the failure texture here. Because boredom isn't just meh. Boredom can feel like despair. It can feel like stagnation. It can feel like you're wasting your life while others are winning. Warren Buffett has lived through years where he looked wrong. Years where other styles outperformed. Years where people mocked his caution. Years where the market chased glamour while he held durable businesses. And he stayed. Not because it felt good. Because he trusted the process. That trust is earned. It's earned by surviving cycles. By not blowing up. By letting time test you. And it's okay if you don't have that trust yet. Warren Buffett didn't start with a perfect temperament. He learned. He paid for lessons early. He saw what impatience costs. He built rules. He built habits. He built a life that made patience easier. Now you can borrow the same blueprint. Here's how Warren Buffett thinks under pressure. When the crowd is excited, he becomes skeptical. When the crowd is terrified, he becomes curious. When the crowd is bored, he becomes focused. Because Warren Buffett knows boredom is when mispricing happens. Boredom is when great businesses get ignored. Boredom is when the best decisions feel almost too plain. And plain decisions are hard for people who confuse complexity with intelligence. Warren Buffett doesn't need complexity. He needs truth. He needs cash flows he can understand. He needs businesses that endure. He needs time. Now, I want to bring it closer to you. Money aside, this compounding mindset changes how you handle your own growth. Because you've been trying to change your life in bursts. Big swings, big plans, a week of intensity followed by a month of drift. That's not compounding. That's emotional effort. Warren Buffett doesn't do emotional effort. He does steady effort. He does repeatable effort. He does small advantages stacked over years. That's why his fortune looks inevitable in hindsight. Because consistency looks inevitable after it has time. Before it has time, it looks boring. So tonight, the shift is simple. You stop asking, what's the big move? And you start asking, what's the repeatable move? Warren Buffett would respect that question. Because Warren Buffett built a fortune on repeatable. Reading every day. Thinking every day. Waiting when nothing makes sense. Acting when the odds are good. Holding through noise. Reinvesting relentlessly. That's not a vibe. It's a schedule. It's a temperament. It's a life. This is how someone who thinks like Warren Buffett would respond when they feel impatient. They would zoom out. They would widen the lens until the day-to-day noise looks small. They would remind themselves that the goal isn't to feel entertained. The goal is to be free. This is how someone who thinks like Warren Buffett would respond when they get a small win. They wouldn't turn it into a party. They would turn it into fuel. They would reinvest. They would protect the downside. They would keep the machine running. This is how someone who thinks like Warren Buffett would respond when nothing is happening. They wouldn't go searching for trouble. They would keep doing the right things that don't get applause. They would let time work. Now, let's address the last piece of resistance. What if I do all this and it still doesn't work? That fear is real. Warren Buffett would not dismiss it. He would ask you what work means. Because if work means you become rich overnight, then no. That's not the game. But if work means you build a life where your money decisions are calm, where you stop gambling with your future, where you keep more of what you earn, where you stop resetting to zero, then yes, it works. Not instantly, steadily, and steadily is the whole point. Warren Buffett's life is a long argument against the idea that speed equals success. He is living proof that slow can be unstoppable. So here's the quiet challenge. Pick one thing you can do consistently for the next 12 months. Not intensely, consistently. And attach your self-respect to the consistency, not the immediate results. That's how Warren Buffett lives. He doesn't need the market's praise this week. He needs his process to stay intact. You can do the same. When you feel the itch to change everything, you don't obey it. You return to the process. You protect the downside. You add when it makes sense. You reinvest what you can. You keep going. Boring. Stable. Relentless. And one day, months from now, you'll notice something. Your emotions aren't driving anymore. Your habits are. That's compounding. Not just in money. In identity. You won't be the person who needs a rush. You'll be the person who trusts the long arc. Warren Buffett doesn't need adrenaline. He needs time. And time, when you stop interrupting it, becomes loyal. Let this land before you move on. The world is built to make you restless. To make you click. To make you chase. Warren Buffett built his fortune by refusing that design. He chose boredom. And boredom, over decades, made him powerful. In the next chapter, we're going to take that power into the storm, because the real test isn't when it's quiet. It's when the market gets violent, and you have to stay rational while everyone else loses their mind. When panic hits, your brain doesn't ask permission. It just moves. It tightens your chest. It shortens your breath. It makes the future feel like a threat, and the present feel like an emergency. And in that exact moment, Warren Buffett looks almost unfair. Because Warren Buffett is calm when other people are not. Not because he's lucky. Not because he's made of stone. Because he trained for chaos long before chaos arrived. That's what you're learning now. Emotional immunity. Not emotionless. Immune to the kind of panic that makes you do stupid things with your future. Warren Buffett has watched markets swing hard enough to change lives in a week. He's seen crashes where people couldn't sleep. He's seen headlines that felt like the end of the world. And in those moments, Warren Buffett doesn't refresh the news feed. He opens reports. He reads. While other people scroll and spiral, Warren Buffett sits with numbers, with cash flows, with what's real. That is not a personality trait. That is a discipline. And discipline is something you can build. Let me make this feel familiar. It's late. Your house is quiet. You open your phone and see the market down again. Maybe it's 3% today. Maybe it's 7%. Maybe it's one of those days where the red looks like blood and the commentators start using words like contagion, collapse, crisis. You tell yourself you're fine, but your body disagrees. Your stomach sinks. Your thoughts race. You start running mental math at the speed of fear. How much did I lose? What if it keeps dropping? What if I can't recover? Now listen. That moment isn't just about money. That moment is where identity shows itself. Because under pressure, you don't rise to your hopes. You fall to your habits. Warren Buffett has habits for pressure. Most people have habits for comfort. That's the difference. Here's the internal enemy in this chapter. Adrenaline. That chemical that makes you feel like action equals safety. Adrenaline makes you sell to feel relief. It makes you buy to feel hope. It makes you trade so you can tell yourself you're doing something. Warren Buffett refuses to negotiate with adrenaline. He doesn't let it drive. He doesn't let it vote. He acknowledges it, then returns to logic. He separates the sensation from the signal. That's emotional immunity. Warren Buffett has a simple, ruthless ability. He separates price from value. Most people can't. They see price falling and assume value is dying. They see price rising and assume value is exploding. Warren Buffett knows price is often mood. Value is business. A business can be steady while the price is hysterical. A business can be sick while the price is euphoric. Warren Buffett doesn't confuse the two. That's why he survives when others panic. Because panic doesn't just move markets. Panic moves people into bad decisions. And bad decisions compound too, just in the wrong direction. Think about 2008 again, not as a history lesson, as a psychological test. People weren't only scared because prices fell. They were scared because nobody knew where the bottom was. There's a special kind of fear when uncertainty has no edge. No timeline. No guarantee. That's where the mind breaks. That's where people sell at the worst possible time, not because they decided, but because their nervous system demanded escape. Warren Buffett doesn't let his nervous system run his portfolio. He runs it with preparation. And preparation is quiet. Preparation is boring. Preparation happens long before you need it. Like reading when things are calm. Like building cash when others are greedy. Like knowing what you own before the storm. This is why Warren Buffett looks calm in chaos. He did the work when nobody cared. Here's what most people do. They prepare emotionally after the crisis hits. They try to become rational while their heart is racing. They try to build a plan while their mind is on fire. That doesn't work. Warren Buffett doesn't do that. He prepares his mind ahead of time, so the crisis doesn't get a blank canvas. When panic arrives, it meets a structure. Rules, checklists, long-term thinking, a circle of competence. Warren Buffett doesn't improvise under pressure. He executes under pressure. That's the difference between a professional and a tourist. But now you might be thinking, okay, but Warren Buffett has experience. I don't. True, but Warren Buffett would tell you something steady and honest. Experience is not magic. It's reps. It's seeing volatility and not dying from it. It's watching fear and not obeying it. You build that the same way you build anything. Slowly, with repetition, with a willingness to be uncomfortable, without doing something dramatic to fix the feeling. That's the cost. And it's a cost most people refuse to pay, because they confuse discomfort with danger. Warren Buffett doesn't. He knows discomfort is often the entry fee for opportunity. Let's talk about what rational looks like. Not smart. Rational. Rational is simple. Rational is asking the right questions when everyone else is asking the loud questions. The loud question is, what's going to happen tomorrow? Warren Buffett's question is, what is this business worth over time? The loud question is, should I sell before it gets worse? Warren Buffett's question is, has the business changed or has the mood changed? The loud question is, how do I stop feeling scared? Warren Buffett's question is, what decision would I respect in 10 years? That last one matters, because it pulls you out of the moment. It widens your lens. And when the lens widens, panic loses power. But Warren Buffett once said, in his plain way, that you pay a high price in the stock market for a cheerful consensus. That's not just about stocks. That's about crowds. Crowds do two things really well. They create excitement, and they create fear. Both are contagious. Both are expensive. Warren Buffett doesn't buy contagion. He buys assets. He buys earnings. He buys durable businesses at prices that make sense. And when prices don't make sense, he waits. Even if waiting makes him look inactive. Even if people criticize him. Even if the noise gets loud. He has lived through decades of noise. He learned the same lesson again and again. The crowd is not your friend. The crowd is your test. Now bring this into your real life. Because staying rational isn't just for market crashes. It's for any moment where pressure tries to steal your mind. A job scare, a sudden expense, a relationship conflict, any moment where you want to react just to stop feeling exposed. Warren Buffett's discipline applies. Separate feeling from fact. Separate short-term noise from long-term truth. Act from logic, not adrenaline. That's the backbone. But I want to be honest with you about something. Staying rational will feel lonely. Because panic is social. Panic wants company. Panic wants confirmation. Panic wants you to join the stampede so you don't feel stupid alone. Warren Buffett has spent a lifetime being willing to be alone. Not isolated. Not bitter. Just independent. He doesn't need the crowd to agree with him for his decision to be valid. He needs reality to agree with him over time. That's the identity shift. You stop being someone who needs consensus. You become someone who needs truth. Warren Buffett built that identity on purpose. And you can start building it tonight. But here's the practical part. Frame the way Warren Buffett would respect it. Not as hype. As a calm set of behaviors you return to when it's hard. This is how someone who thinks like Warren Buffett would respond when volatility spikes. First, they reduce noise. They don't watch every update. They don't feed the adrenaline. They step back from the constant drip of fear. They choose fewer inputs, not more. Second, they return to fundamentals. They ask, what do I own and why? They look at the business. They look at cash flows. They look at debt. They look at whether the core story changed. Warren Buffett reads annual reports because they don't scream. They don't panic. They just tell you what's real. Third, they decide in advance what panic behavior looks like, so they can catch it. For you, it might be checking prices every 10 minutes. It might be doom scrolling at midnight. It might be texting friends to ask what to do. Warren Buffett would see those as red flags. Not because you're weak, because you're human. And humans under fear make costly trades. Fourth, they act only when the logic is clear. Warren Buffett doesn't try to catch every move. He waits for obvious. He waits for a margin of safety. He waits until the numbers make the decision feel calm, even if the world is loud. This is how someone who thinks like Warren Buffett would respond. They would not confuse motion with control. They would not confuse fear with insight. They would not confuse headlines with value. Now, let's add a reality marker that matters here. In major downturns, it's not unusual for good companies to get cut in half on the screen. 50%. Not because their factories disappeared overnight. Not because customers vanished overnight. Because the market is a voting machine in the short term, and votes can be emotional. Warren Buffett understands that. He doesn't need the vote. He needs the weight. And the weight shows up over years, not hours. So when you see a violent move, your job isn't to predict the next day. Your job is to stay rational enough to not destroy your future. That's it. Survive the storm with your mind intact. Because if your mind stays intact, you can make decisions the crowd can't. If your mind breaks, you become the crowd. There's a quiet power that comes when you realize this. The market can't force you to panic. It can only tempt you. The headline can't make you sell. It can only pressure you. The crowd can't control you. It can only invite you. Warren Buffett declines the invitation. Again and again. That declining is what makes him strong. Not his IQ. Not his reputation. His refusal to be emotionally hijacked. And you're going to have moments where you fail at this. You will. You'll panic check. You'll feel the pull. You'll want relief. That doesn't make you hopeless. It makes you in training. Warren Buffett didn't become Warren Buffett in 1 year. He became Warren Buffett by stacking thousands of small moments where he chose rational over reactive. Thousands. Not 10. Not 50. Thousands. That's the compounding you're building now. Compounding of temperament. Compounding of judgment. Compounding of self-trust. Because self-trust is the hidden reward. When you stay rational during a storm, you teach yourself, I can be trusted under pressure. And that lesson spreads. It spreads into how you handle money, how you handle conflict, how you handle setbacks. It becomes a backbone. Warren Buffett has that backbone. And he didn't borrow it from anyone. He built it. Now you're building yours. So tonight, let the final thought be simple. You don't need to predict the chaos. You need to prepare your mind for it. Warren Buffett reads when others refresh. He thinks when others react. He waits when others rush. He acts when logic is clear, not when emotions are loud. That's emotional immunity. And it's rare, because most people would rather feel safe for an hour than be free for a lifetime. Warren Buffett chose the lifetime. Now you choose. Quietly, decisively, in the small moments, when nobody is watching. And in the next chapter, we're going to push deeper into the pain most people can't tolerate. holding the long game when it hurts, when progress is slow, when doubt is loud, and you learn how Warren Buffett outlasts the impatient. If you're chasing a lifestyle, you're already trapped. That's the quiet truth Warren Buffett has been living for decades, while the world keeps confusing wealth with display. Warren Buffett could have built a life that screams. He didn't. And that choice is not a cute personality quirk. It's a philosophy. It's a warning. Because the fastest way to lose freedom is to start spending like you need to prove something. Let's make it personal, because this is where people lie to themselves. You don't want a car. You want what the car says. You don't want the watch. You want the respect you think comes with it. You don't want the bigger house. You want the feeling of finally being ahead. And the problem is, the feeling never lasts. So you need another hit. And another. And another. Lifestyle inflation is not a money problem. It's an identity problem. Warren Buffett understands that. He understood it early, and he never let it go. That's why he can sit in a simple home in Omaha, the same one he bought in 1958, while having access to almost any luxury on earth. That's not restraint for the sake of looking humble. That's strategy. Because Warren Buffett isn't trying to look rich. He's trying to stay free. But here's the internal enemy in this chapter. Status. That need to be seen. That need to signal your worth. Status is expensive because it never stops charging you. It charges you in monthly payments. It charges you in stress. It charges you in time spent keeping up the image. It charges you in decisions you make for optics instead of outcomes. Warren Buffett refuses to negotiate with status. He doesn't hate nice things. He just doesn't worship them. And worship is what turns possessions into pressure. But you've probably heard the phrase, live below your means. Most people treat it like advice. Warren Buffett treats it like a shield. Because he knows something you need to hear when it's quiet and you're being honest. If your spending is built on your ego, your life will become a job you can't quit. You'll have to keep earning, keep grinding, keep chasing. Not because you want to, because you have to. That's not wealth. That's a golden cage. Warren Buffett didn't build a cage. He built a key. Now let's bring this into a scene you know. You're scrolling late at night. Everyone's life looks shiny. Trips, cars, restaurants, renovations. You're seeing the highlight reel, and your mind starts doing what it always does. Comparing, measuring, whispering, "Why not me?" That whisper is dangerous, because it doesn't just make you feel bad. It makes you spend. It makes you treat yourself when you're really trying to treat your insecurity. Warren Buffett sees that trap. He steps around it. He understands that comparison is a tax you pay in silence. And if you keep paying it, you'll never feel rich, no matter how much you make. But Warren Buffett measures wealth differently. Not in cars, not in square feet, not in how many people notice. He measures it in autonomy, in choice, in the ability to say no. He once said something like, "If you buy things you don't need, you'll soon be selling things you do need." That's not a moral statement. That's a reality statement. It's the math of a life built on image. And Warren Buffett refuses that math. He plays a different game. He plays the game of freedom. But think about what Warren Buffett's lifestyle tells you without him ever preaching. He eats at simple places. He drives modest cars. He doesn't dress to intimidate. He doesn't move like someone trying to convince you of anything. And that lack of performance is exactly why his presence feels heavy. Because it signals something rare. Security. Not fake security. Earned security. The kind that doesn't need witnesses. Warren Buffett doesn't need applause. He needs control of his time. That's the real definition of wealth. But now you might push back. You might say, but I want nice things. I don't want to live small. Good. Wanting comfort isn't the problem. Needing status is the problem. Because when status drives your spending, you become predictable, and that makes you easy to manipulate. Marketing will manipulate you. Friends will manipulate you. Your own insecurity will manipulate you. Warren Buffett doesn't let the world steer him through his ego. He steers through his values. Freedom, stability, simplicity, trust. Those are Buffett words. Not flashy, but strong. Let's connect this back to money in a way Warren Buffett would approve of. Warren Buffett built wealth by compounding. Compounding requires time. Time requires patience. Patience requires peace. And peace is hard to keep when your lifestyle is loud. If you need to maintain an image, you need steady income. If you need steady income, you can't take risks. If you can't take risks, you can't invest the way Warren Buffett invests. You see how this works. Flash doesn't just cost money. Flash costs options. And Warren Buffett values options more than impressions. He keeps his life light, so he can move when opportunity appears. That's how he thinks under pressure. He protects his freedom before he protects his comfort. But here's another reality marker. Warren Buffett has given away and committed to give away staggering amounts of money over time, and yet he never built a life of excess around himself. That tells you what he believes about wealth. He sees money as a tool, not a trophy. And the moment money becomes a trophy, you start making dumb decisions to protect the trophy. You start living for the scoreboard. Warren Buffett doesn't. He lives for the quiet ability to choose. But now the emotional arc here matters. You start in comparison. You feel behind. You feel judged. You feel the itch to catch up. And then, if you really let Warren Buffett's mindset sink in, something changes. You start seeing the trap. You start seeing that the crowd is spending to soothe their anxiety, not because it makes them happy. You start seeing that rich-looking people are often the most stressed, because they're financing the performance. Warren Buffett isn't performing. He's living. And living is calmer. Living is grounded. Living is sustainable. This is where your shoulders drop a little. This is where your breath gets slower. Because you realize you don't have to win a public competition. You only have to build a private life you respect. Warren Buffett built that. Now you can. But this is how someone who thinks like Warren Buffett responds when they want to buy something flashy. They pause. Not forever. Just long enough to ask one question. Is this buying me freedom, or is this buying me approval? Warren Buffett would respect that question, because it exposes the motive. And motive is where financial decisions are won or lost. This is how someone who thinks like Warren Buffett responds when their income goes up. They don't immediately upgrade everything. They protect the gap. They keep the margin. They let the extra become fuel, not fireworks. Because Warren Buffett knows lifestyle inflation is a slow leak that empties the tank without you noticing. This is how someone who thinks like Warren Buffett responds when they feel behind. They don't spend to catch up. They invest to close the gap. They build quietly. They let time do its work. They stop trying to look like progress and start making progress. Now let's talk about time, because this is the real prize. Warren Buffett's wealth gives him the ability to choose how he spends a day. That's what people envy, whether they admit it or not. Not the money, the autonomy, the calm, the ability to say no to nonsense, the ability to say yes to what matters. And you don't need billions to start living that way. You need a mindset that protects your time like it's sacred. Because it is. Your time is your life. And if you sell your time to fund an image, you're not winning. You're trading your life for a costume. Warren Buffett never did that. He kept his life simple, so his time stayed his. But here's the quiet fear beneath all this. If you stop performing, will anyone respect you? If you stop spending, will you feel small? If you stop chasing, will you fall behind? Warren Buffett's life answers those fears without words. Respect that depends on your purchases isn't respect. Confidence that depends on attention isn't confidence. Success that depends on other people's approval isn't success. It's dependency. Warren Buffett refuses dependency. That's why he's free. So tonight, I want you to do something small. Not dramatic. Small. Look at one spending habit you have that's tied to status. Just one. It might be the car payment, the clothes, the constant upgrades, the because I deserve it purchases that show up when you feel insecure. And ask gently but honestly, what is this costing me in freedom? Not just money. Freedom, options, peace, time. Warren Buffett would ask that. And if the answer hurts a little, good. Pain is information, not punishment. Information. Now you can choose. You can keep paying the status tax, or you can redirect that money into a life that gets lighter every year. Warren Buffett chose lighter. Again and again. Let's land this clean. True wealth is not what you can buy. True wealth is what you don't have to do. You don't have to work with fear in your chest. You don't have to impress people who don't know you. You don't have to stay in situations you've outgrown. Warren Buffett's lifestyle proves what he values. Freedom over flash. Control over costume. Peace over performance. And if you adopt that, you'll feel something rare. A grounded fulfillment that doesn't need witnesses. In the next chapter, we're going to sharpen this into your final identity shift. Because Warren Buffett doesn't just avoid gambling. He becomes the house. And once you understand what that really means, you stop hopping. You start structuring your life so the odds finally work for you. Most people walk into the market like they're walking into a casino. They don't say that out loud. They call it investing. They call it taking a shot. They call it just seeing what happens. But if you strip away the language, it's hope. And hope without structure is gambling. Warren Buffett never walks in as the gambler. He walks in as the house. That's the shift. That's the final identity. When you sit at a blackjack table, the casino doesn't care if you win one hand, or 3, or 10. The casino cares about math. Over thousands of hands, the edge works. Small, relentless, unemotional. Warren Buffett thinks like that. He doesn't need every investment to be perfect. He needs the structure to favor him over time. That's not optimism. That's design. And most people never design their financial life. They react to it. Let's be honest about how you've probably operated. You saw an opportunity. You felt excitement. You imagined the upside. You told yourself, what if this works? And sometimes it did. Sometimes it didn't. And your financial story started to feel random. Up one year, down the next. Confidence high in one season, shaken in another. That randomness erodes something quiet inside you. It erodes self-trust. Because deep down, you know you weren't operating from an edge. You were operating from emotion. Warren Buffett refuses randomness. He stacks probabilities. He seeks asymmetry. That's a cold word, but it's powerful. Asymmetry means the downside is limited and the upside is meaningful. It means if you're wrong, you survive. If you're right, you grow. Warren Buffett structures his life around that principle. Think about how he has operated in moments when others were desperate. During financial stress, when companies needed capital fast, Warren Buffett didn't just invest. He negotiated terms, preferred shares, warrants, downside protection, income streams. He didn't accept average odds. He improved them. He didn't walk in hoping the coin flip would favor him. He weighted the coin. That's becoming the house. Now feel this in your own life. You don't need to be negotiating billion-dollar deals to apply this mindset. You need to stop asking, how much can I make? And start asking, how much can I lose? That question changes everything. Warren Buffett thinks under pressure like this. If this goes wrong, does it cripple me or bruise me? If it cripples you, you don't do it. Simple, not dramatic, not sexy, just disciplined. The internal enemy here is luck. That quiet addiction to being saved by a big win. The lottery mindset. The fantasy of one move fixing everything. Warren Buffett never built his life on a single spin. He built it on thousands of small advantages compounded. He thinks probabilistically, not emotionally. Probabilistic thinking sounds complicated. It's not. It's asking calmly, over 100 repetitions, does this work in my favor? If the answer is no, he passes. Even if the story is exciting. Even if other people are bragging. Even if the upside looks massive. Because Warren Buffett knows something gamblers don't. The size of the jackpot doesn't matter if the odds are against you. Let's ground this in a real constraint. Warren Buffett has managed capital not just for himself, but for shareholders. Millions of eyes. Decades of scrutiny. He cannot afford to gamble with reputation. He cannot afford to chase trends that could implode. His margin for error isn't social embarrassment. It's legacy. So he builds systems. He builds checklists. He stays inside his circle. He demands a margin of safety. He repeats this for decades. That repetition is the edge. You might say, but I don't have that level of pressure. You do. You just don't label it. Your pressure is your future self, your family, your time, your ability to say no to work you hate. If you gamble recklessly, you're gambling with years of your life. And that cost compounds too. Warren Buffett would see your future as capital that must be protected, not risked for adrenaline. Now imagine this. It's late. You're alone again. You're considering a move, an investment, a career jump, a financial decision. And instead of asking, will this make me rich, you ask, does this give me an edge? Not hope, not hype. Edge. Can you explain the logic? Is the downside contained? Is the upside meaningful relative to the risk? Would this decision make sense repeated 10 times? 50 times? 100? That's how Warren Buffett thinks. He zooms out until emotion looks small. He zooms out until patterns appear. He zooms out until luck becomes irrelevant. But here's another piece people miss. Casinos don't chase players. They wait. They build a system so that over time, players walk involuntarily. Warren Buffett doesn't chase every deal. He waits for conditions to favor him. He keeps liquidity. He keeps patience. He keeps discipline. Because he knows that when others are emotional, opportunity appears. And when opportunity appears, he acts decisively. Not wildly. Decisively. That's a different energy. Calm. Measured. Certain. But there's a moment in every investor's life when they realize something uncomfortable. They've been acting like the gambler, checking prices constantly, feeling highs and lows, celebrating wins like jackpots, hiding losses like shame. That emotional roller coaster isn't wealth. It's volatility inside your own chest. Warren Buffett doesn't live on that roller coaster. He built rails. He built structure. He built a system where the odds tilt slowly in his favor. That's the identity shift. You stop chasing outcomes. You start designing conditions. But this is how someone who thinks like Warren Buffett would respond to a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. They would slow down. They would run numbers. They would look for the catch. They would ask, if this fails, what happens to me? They would demand a price that builds in protection. If they can't get it, they walk away. No drama. No ego. This is how someone who thinks like Warren Buffett would respond to a streak of wins. They wouldn't feel invincible. They would assume variance. They would assume luck played a role. They would tighten standards, not loosen them. Because the house never forgets the math. This is how someone who thinks like Warren Buffett would respond to a loss. They wouldn't double down emotionally. They would analyze. Was the logic flawed? Was the risk misjudged? Or was it just part of probability? Then they adjust. Without self-destruction. But now here where it gets deeper. Becoming the house isn't just about money. It's about how you design your E. It's about how you design your entire life. Do your habits favor you over time? Does your environment increase the probability of good outcomes? Do your routines compound skill? Or are you reacting daily to whatever feels urgent? Warren Buffett structures his days to read, to think, to decide slowly. That increases the probability of rational action. That's edge. You can do the same. Not by copying his schedule. By copying his principle. Design beats impulse. But there's discomfort here. Because being the house is less thrilling than being the gambler. The gambler feels alive. The house feels steady. And steady doesn't get applause. But steady builds freedom. The gambler tells stories. The house builds wealth. Warren Buffett chose wealth. Over stories. Over thrills. Over applause. And that's why his calm carries weight. But you might not control markets. You might not control headlines. You might not control timing. But you can control structure. You can control how much you risk. You can control your standards. You can control your patience. And when you control structure, randomness loses its power over you. Warren Buffett understands that control isn't about prediction. It's about preparation. But so tonight, here's the shift. You stop asking, how do I win big? You start asking, how do I avoid losing big? You stop building decisions on hope. You start building them on math. You stop walking into the game looking for luck. You start designing your seat at the table. That's the final identity. Not the gambler. The house. Calm. Disciplined. Unemotional. Stacking small advantages until they become overwhelming. Let this sit with you before you move on. If you structure your life like Warren Buffett structures a deal, if you protect the downside, if you seek asymmetry, if you think in probabilities, if you repeat good decisions long enough, then luck becomes optional. Not because you eliminate uncertainty, but because you make uncertainty work for you. Warren Buffett didn't conquer the market. He aligned with math. And math over time is patient. Now you choose. You can keep chasing spins, or you can build the table. And once you build the table, the game changes forever. You don't need Warren Buffett's billions. You need his lens. He once said, "Someone's sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago." That's it. Plant the tree. Not when you feel confident. Not when the market feels safe. Now, because the cost of delay isn't dramatic, it's silent. It's 10 years passing while you chase speed. It's small leaks in discipline that erode self-trust. Warren Buffett didn't become extraordinary through intensity. He became extraordinary through consistency, through refusing to negotiate with impatience. So tonight, decide. You are no longer the person who reacts. You are the person who evaluates. You are no longer chasing applause. You are compounding quietly. Open your accounts. Review your decisions. Cut what doesn't fit your circle of competence. Double down on what you understand deeply. And then wait. Calmly. Deliberately. Like Warren Buffett would. Start building the shade you'll sit in one day. Now,